already I have an issue, but let me continue.
Thank you.
Joining me now are two of the organizers of that Brooklyn March you just heard, Raquel Willis and Ian Field Stewart. Both of them are writers and activists, and we're glad to have you here. So, Raquel, that's a pretty mind-numbing figure. 16 transgender and gender nonconforming people killed so far this year that we know of. How can the change that we're seeing in many cities and in some cases in states as well translate to protections, to change for the trans community?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, Chris. I think one of the big things we have to remember is that obviously we've seen a lot of strides in legislation, a lot of strides in terms of visibility, but we need to have more funding going to Black trans-led organizations and Black trans organizers. If we don't have that, we won't see the solutions that we need to solve this epidemic of violence.
What are those solutions? What are you looking for if you have a checklist of things that you see as doable in this moment?
Absolutely. Well, last year I published the Trans Obituaries Project with Out Magazine. It put forth a 13-point framework on how we can end the epidemic of violence. I think part of it is getting media literacy, right? A lot of times we don't even know who all has been attacked, who is in the community. And so we need that, but we also need to build up the economic empowerment of Black transgender people. If we don't do that, we can't have the spaces to move all of the different ways of ending the violence, whether it's in the state system, whether you're incarcerated or detained, or whether you're facing violence in your own home. We have to have a holistic framework that touches on all of these different ways that we are impacted.
So, Ian, do you feel like this is a moment that brings an opportunity? I know, some cities are marking Pride this weekend. There are rallies around the trans community in Chicago, a Black Trans Lives Matter rally planned for this weekend. How are Pride and the definition of what Pride is maybe different or newly focused this year, given how much there's been conversations about racial injustice?
Thank you so much for having me. I think that it is crucial that we understand that Black trans people have been the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom for forever. We
Pay close attention to what this person just said. They said Black trans people have been the blueprint for the Black struggle forever. And think about what the mission statement is on the BLM website, where they said they want to put Black trans in leadership positions.
The founders of Tree's Colors, Opal Tomenti, all three of them started Black Lives Matter with the intention of Black trans women being at the center of this work.
There it is. And the reason why I'm playing this is because I talked about this before, but now you have the audio to go along with it. And I think when I did this video, it was before this even came out. So now you can't say that I made this up. You heard it straight from the person's mouth. And by the way, the two people minus the anchor who's hosting this, or have these two here, both of the two people who are the main ones talking are biologically born men. And I think the one that was talking about saying Black trans power was the first one that was speaking. Up there trying to be a mixture between Kathleen Cleaver and Angela Davis, because that's almost what they look like to me when I saw them up there. But they literally said Black trans power, which we all know the slogan Black Power came from the Black Panther Party. And that's one of the reasons why you see that word thief right there on your screen. But I'm going to let this play out some more.
As the movement has grown and as time has passed, we've perhaps moved away from that in some ways. But I think that in general, we have to understand that this moment that we are experiencing requires and necessitates the presence, uplifting, and empowerment of Black trans people. And I think that the moment that we find ourselves in is one that I hope has longevity and continues to move forward.
We've only got a minute left, but give us some specifics about how people can do that. Because let's say I'm an ally. I've done my research. I've familiarized myself with the struggle of trans people. Maybe even I've donated or I've utilized my privilege. What specific step would you say to people that they can do individually?
Something I often say, because I get this question a lot, which is, you know, and I have to repeat it over and over, which is that just as we cannot ask Black people to undo racism because white people were the inventors of racism, we cannot ask trans people to deconstruct transphobia because we did not create it. So I think that the most necessary step is, in someone who wants to be an ally to Black trans lives, is for that person to understand, what does it take for you to make the lives of Black trans people crucial and important? What does it take for you to inspire yourself to do the necessary work that Black trans people have had to do to learn our own history? Because we don't just get taught our history. We have to look it up as well. We have to find ourselves. We have to write ourselves into history books that have erased us. And so I think that it is the necessity of any cis person who wishes to be an ally for Black trans people to understand, what do you need? Because people are dying. And I can't make our lives important to you, because our lives are important to me just by the virtue of that I am part of the community. So what do you need for the lives of Black trans people to be important to you? And then move from there. Because I think that when you have that understanding, you will be guided by your own drive, your own dedication to our freedom and our liberation.
Thank you for...
Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know what ad was going to pop up. So y'all just heard that right there. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because one of my subscribers, my followers on Twitter, actually sent me a screenshot of this that led to an article, but I really didn't want to listen. But there wasn't an article attached to it. It was just this video. So this pretty much backs up a video that I did a while back. It wasn't that long ago, where I was talking about how the academy, preferably the ones in the T class, are using deceased Black male bodies in order to push their own agenda. Mind you, they could not have gotten this far if it wasn't for Black men, Black boys, Black males dying unjustly at the hands of these terrorists we call cops in order for BLM to get started. It's pretty much put out there on their website who they're for, and it's not us only except for when we are dying, so they could start it back up. And that's what boggles my mind about the whole thing. BLM was founded mainly for them. And they said they want to put them in leadership roles. They've gotten all of these donations and all this funding. It's like, what more are you trying to get? I said, no, I said, there's more to it than that. They want more. And you heard what one of them said at a rally. It said Black trans power. The key word there is power. They want a solidified seat at the table where they are running the war room. That's what they want. It's so blatantly obvious what their end game is. It's crazy because they claim that Black male toxic masculinity, they don't like patriarchy, and that's all on their site. This is not me just talking. They want to undo the nuclear family and all of that. But when someone is playing dress up or having identity issues, who is biologically born a man, they're no longer toxic masculinity. They're no longer part of the patriarchy. Do y'all see how crazy and twisted that is? I'm like, I know I'm not the only one that has these thoughts running through their head right now. This is just common sense. This is logic. And I don't care whose feelings might be hurt. We just got to call it out for what it is. This is the end game. This is their end game right here. They only need us when we're dying. How are they any different than the agendas that be pushed by those palm-colored so-called supremacists? It's no different. It's just the skin tone is different. Their agenda might be a little bit different, but it encompasses itself at the end of the day to work somewhat congruently together. And the only way they can successfully succeed with that is if a black male is on the receiving end of their agenda. Like, this was hard. This was very hard to listen to, as quiet as it's kept. It was only about 6 minutes long. That was a long 6 minutes. But they're telling you what it is. When that person said black trans power, that left a bad taste in my mouth, because I know where the black power phrase came from. And to hear them say that, you just hijacked more than just a saying. You literally hijacked a movement with that phrase. And they said they want them in leadership roles. Imagine if they were the quote unquote leaders of this community. It would be even more worse off than what it is now. It'll be it's beyond repair now, but this time, at this point, you might as well just let the rubble continue to pile up. And they said that they want funding. I'm sitting there thinking, like, y'all are getting a lot of funding. BLM is practically your organization. It's not beneficial to us. And don't get it twisted. When white people say they don't like Black Lives Matter, their issue with it is completely different than what our issue is with it. At the end of the day, they link it to Antifa all the time, which I think is just ridiculous. But our reasoning is two different reasoning as to why we don't like the organization. We don't like it because of their agenda behind it. And if you call it out, they'll call you this and that phobic, which that gets old and tiring to the point where it just goes in one ear and out the other. That no longer makes us stop dead in our tracks to say what we have to say. And see, I'm saying this in a very respectful tone. I'm not calling anybody out of their name. But when you critique them, then that's when they want to call you out of your name. But y'all heard it straight from the person. I'll probably leave the link so y'all can go ahead and check it out for yourself. But that's their end game. That is their agenda laid out for you. It cannot get any more plain put than what you just heard. It's sad, it's pathetic that they had to get their rise up off of black males falling into the street dying. Yet again, another organization, another group gets their comeuppance or their come up, their bag, their bank off of us. And what do we get in return? Nothing except grief and madness and chaos and destruction, while everybody else gets to going right off into the sunset, while we're left here to pick up the scraps yet again, just waiting for the next group to come along and use us like a dirty tampon.